Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into a book that, well, really took the reading world by storm. Fourth Wing.
Quite the phenomenon.
Absolutely. So our mission here in this deep dive is to kind of unpack why this fantasy novel became such a massive, massive thing. You know, what makes it tick? What does the whole conversation around it tell us?
Yeah, about modern reader expectations, maybe.
Exactly. And we've gathered quite a bit of material, everything from critical reviews, the formal stuff, to really passionate reader discussions online, genre analysis, trying to get you the full picture.
A real deep dive.
You got it. Okay, so let's get into it. How did this storied dragon riders, intense romance, and underdog main character, how did that become this global sensation? We're talking millions sold, TikTok's International Book of the Year for 2024. It's huge.
Well, what's fascinating, I think, is how Fourth Wing didn't just get popular. It feels like it helped define, or maybe redefine, a whole subgenre.
Romantasy, right.
Exactly. So we're going to look at, its core appeal, some of the unique elements, definitely, but also touch on some of the, let's say, nuanced critiques it got, and try to connect all that to the bigger picture of like modern fantasy and how stories just blow up now in the digital age.
Okay, so let's dive into that core appeal then, the magnetic pull of Fourth Wing. For anyone who's read it, the Violet Sorrengail's journey is absolutely central. This physically, frail underdog, right? Forced into this brutal dragon riding academy.
Against all odds.
Totally. Defying everything and then bonding with not one, but two pretty formidable dragons. So what did our deep dive find about why that specific arc, that underdog to overpowering thing, resonated so much? Why did millions connect with that?
Well, what really came through from all the sources was how deeply relatable Violet's progression feels. I mean, she's pushed into this world that's all about physical brutality, dragons killing riders who aren't worthy, trials that are literally lethal.
Right, not exactly welcome.
Not at all. But despite her physical limits, she brings this mental resilience. She's sharp, she's witty, she has this cunning survival instinct. And her journey, from basically being scribe in training to becoming this formidable dragon-bonded warrior, especially bonding with Tarn, huge, scary black dragon, Morning Star Tail, famously territorial.
And Andarna, too.
And Andarna, a little golden feather tail, super rare, whose type holds this unexpected power. That whole transformation is just incredibly compelling.
It really is. It's classic underdog, but,
with dragons.
Yeah.
Which makes everything better.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's quite a twist, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fantasy heroes are so often born strong or destined. Did the sources suggest that subversion, that difference, was a key hook?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It taps into something really fundamental, that feeling of overcoming what people think are your weaknesses. And it feels kind of refreshing compared to some standard fantasy tropes.
Makes sense.
But it's not just Violet, right? Her personal journey is huge, but the world itself, Navarre, the dragons, the politics, that seems just as crucial for making it so immersive. What did our research show about Yarros' world building? What made that so captivating?
Yeah, good point. A lot of the reviews we looked at really highlighted how Yarros manages to weave together these powerful dragons, ancient magic wards, keeping things safe, and this complex military politics. It all forms this vivid, layered world. And the backdrop, this constant threat of war with the Griffin Riders, the enemy forces, that creates really strong, immersive stakes. It's not just wallpaper.
Exactly. It feels like a living, breathing entity.
Yeah.
And the world building is imaginative for sure. And the dragons, like you said, they're not just, fancy horses, they're characters. Fully realized personalities, critical roles in the plot. That's a definite strength.
A big one.
And then underneath the dragons and the fighting, there's this political dimension, which adds, a bit of depth that makes the high-stakes confrontations, the reveals about conspiracies later on. It makes them feel earned. It builds real tension.
Speaking of high stakes, the action sequences. Every other review seemed to mention them. Heart-pounding training sequences, sabotage, betrayal, these big battles.
Yeah.
They really deliver this adrenaline-filled pacing, escalating tension.
It keeps you turning the pages.
It sounds like it. This book seems to be constantly moving.
Indeed. That immersive pacing, the climactic scenes, they are consistently praised. It really delivers on being action-driven, pure escapist entertainment.
Right.
And of course, intertwined with all that breakneck pace and the high stakes is the romance, which is obviously central to its appeal.
Ah, yes, the romance. Can't talk about Fourth Wing without talking about Violet and Xaden Riorson.
Definitely not.
He's the wing leader, the marked one, because of his family's rebellion. It's a huge talking point. They start out as, well, bitter enemies, hating each other.
The classic trope.
Totally.
Yep.
And then it evolves into something way more complex. The intensity, the grudges turning into this really deep, almost like territorial chemistry. It's a massive draw.
Yeah, and what's particularly interesting there, I think, is how Violet's magical bond with her two dragons, which is super rare and loaded with symbolism, how that adds another layer. It adds emotional nuance, not just to her character arc, but actually to the romantic dynamic with Xaden itself.
How so?
Well, it sort of deepens the fantasy weight of the relationship. It's not just two people falling for each other. It's tied into the magic, the dragon bonds.
That's interesting. I mean, Publishers Weekly gave it a starred review, right?
Yeah.
Specifically praising the characters and that dark academia feel.
Which definitely includes that central duo and their whole evolving thing.
Okay, so loads of praise. Topping bestseller lists, that TikTok Book of the Year award in 2024.
Yeah.
It clearly hit a nerve, resonated really widely.
No question.
But no book, especially one that explodes like this, gets away without some critiques, right? And our sources definitely brought some of those nuances to light.
Yeah.
It reveals this interesting tension between mass appeal and maybe more traditional literary expectations.
Right. And this raises a key question. Okay, it delivers thrilling escapism, we get that. But where do some of the critical observations land? Like, one point that came up pretty consistently was about the dialogue, feelings anachronistic.
Yeah, I saw that. Described often as like Gen Z flavored, which some found a bit jarring in a high fantasy setting with, ancient magic and dragons.
It's a common discussion point, isn't it? Contemporary fantasy trying to feel modern, sometimes maybe too much.
Seems like it. And it wasn't just the dialogue, was it? Some critics also pointed to a kind of tell, don't show writing style. Meaning instead of revealing emotions or plot points through what characters do, the author sometimes just states them directly.
Flat out tells you.
Right. And some felt that made the emotional arcs feel, less impactful, maybe a bit rushed.
That's a fair summary of that critique, yeah. And beyond that, another common point highlighted maybe a lack of depth in some of the supporting characters.
Like Dane or Mira.
Exactly. Characters who are really integral to Violet's journey, but maybe don't always feel fully fleshed out or three-dimensional. It sort of suggests a really intense focus on Violet and Xaden, maybe at the expense of the wider cast sometimes.
It sounds like that breakneck pacing, which was a huge strength for so many readers, also had its downsides for some. Our deep dive showed that some readers felt the pacing was maybe occasionally disjointed. Abrupt chapter transitions, underdeveloped subplots here and there, maybe even some uneven editing, things that could detract from the overall polish, perhaps.
Yeah, and if you connect that to the bigger picture, it suggests that while the book absolutely nails delivering a fast, super engaging experience, maybe some of the finer literary details, the structural consistency, might have been, let's say, sacrificed a bit for that sheer propulsion.
So the overall rating we sort of synthesized from the sources landed where? Around a 3.5 to 4 out of 5?
Yeah, somewhere in that range. Broadly good, immensely entertaining, people love it, but with clear areas critics pointed to for improvement, particularly around that polish. So, okay, what does this all really mean then? Ultimately, Fourth Wing really stands as this prime example of the booming romantasy genre. Romance meets fantasy. And it's hugely propelled, maybe even defined, by platforms like BookTok. That's undeniable.
Right.
Now, it might not be, polished literary fantasy in the traditional sense. We heard the critiques, the anachronistic dialogue, the tell don't show, maybe some flatter supporting characters like Dane or Mira. But it absolutely delivers on being passionate, world-spanning, dragon-fueled escapist entertainment. That's its promise. And it nails it.
Yeah.
It's immersive pacing, those big climactic scenes, and especially that compelling arc of Violet rising above her physical limits that clearly resonated really, really deeply with millions of readers. And it's shaping expectations, I think, for this whole new wave of genre fiction.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting, I think. If Fourth Wing is this prime example of how a book can just ignite a global phenomenon by leaning hard into addictive storytelling, vibrant world building, especially with those central dragons and a romance that people just adore. It raises a pretty important question for you, the listener. What balance of addictive read versus, say, literary polish do you value most when you pick up your next big fantasy book, when you dive into a new fictional world?
That's a great question to ponder.
We hope this deep dive gave you a bit of a shortcut, maybe, to being well-informed on this truly remarkable book phenomenon. Keep exploring, keep reading, and we'll see you for the next deep dive.